In Shugadam, Kaguraji proudly reports Jira's arrest to Rakules. But Daga screams that the throne will not stand for Kaguraji, allowing the loss of god Kabuto. Kaguraji says the main concern should be that it is in the hands of the Bugnarak. Bashimar asks Rakules if they should continue their search for the other two spirits. Rakules says he's deciphered a clue revealing one of the spirits lies in a bed of ice. Meanwhile, Jira laughs hysterically as Rita Kanasuka, the king of Gakuen, transfers him to her country. Rita's assistant Morphonia welcomes them, and the king tasks her with rolling Jira in a snowman in order to start a preliminary interrogation. Jira asserts that he is an evil king and should be extradited to Shugadam. Rita says that will not happen as he will be judged here in Gakuen. Jira quickly switches up and admits he was just pretending. But Rita says it is too late. The investigation will proceed. Jira says all he wanted to do was to protect the peoples. This admission gives Rita pause before she walks away to deal with just-arrived Sanajims. Jira wants to join the battle, but Rita says he is not a king, thus unworthy of wielding the sword. Morphonia rolls Snowjira away. The Sanajims demand Rita hand over the treasure. But she instead henshins to easily finish them off. Later, King Judge Rita is in the courtroom presiding over the case of a scalper reselling items for marked-up prices. His sentence is 6 months in a negative 10-degree prison. Afterwards, Morphonia has all the files Rita needs for Jira's case. But Rita asks for a moment alone. She walks into a room and locks the door. Morphonia listens in as Rita takes a moment to have a conversation with Moffin, a cute stuffed animal yeti. This room is filled with little Moffins as well as case files scattered on the floor. Rita and Moffin discuss how the scalper deserved the death penalty and how Jira might be 100% guilty as well. Moffin seems to suggest to just drop the case, but Rita says she still has more investigating to do. Rita walks out and tells Morphonia that she will be speaking with the kings and other relevant people for her investigation. Rita first speaks with Yenma, asking him about being an accomplice in Jira unlawfully using King-Ohger. She says that he will face judgment next after Jira. But if he cooperates, he can be granted amnesty. Yenma says Jira does whatever he wants and he actually was able to pass through the biometrics of the Ogre Kaliba. So it's not something easy to steal or use, unless you are a king. After a pause, Rita screams, much to the shock of everyone in Yenma's palace. Rita rants to a mini-Moffin to say she just knew this would be the case. Rita heads to Ishibana and says Himino will face judgment for helping Jira escape. Himino says to bring it on. But Rita changes her tone and asks about Himino's medical credentials. Next up, Rita speaks with Kaguraji, who says he heard Jira was the leader of a group of thieves. And if he said anything, monsters would bring pests upon his country's food. Rita is not interested in hearing his lies and just enjoys the food on the table instead. Finally, Rita heads to Shugadam. Rakules says he expects Jira to get the death penalty. Rita replies that it is not up to him. Rakules boasts that he eliminates threats through force, no questions asked. That includes Jira. So if Rita releases him, then that means Shugadam will be in conflict with the entire country of Gakuen. Rita walks straight up to Rakules and slaps him. She shows her palm, saying there was a mosquito. He marvels at Rita being able to stretch the law in order to justify assault. Rita leaves. Rakules initially laughs off the disrespect before his face goes as ice-cold as Gakuen. Speaking of, Jira sits in the cold prison cell thinking about his friends back in Shugadam and the dreams of eating rainbow Juraraira. Suddenly, Morphonia plucks a strand of hair from Jira's head. Jira asks what that was for and Morphonia says it doesn't matter since he's good as dead anyways. Morphonia talks about how most everyone in Gakuen is either a criminal or ex-criminal. That's why Rita hates most everyone here. So if Jira has any ill feelings, direct them towards Rita. Jira says he does not hold this against her. He feels the more someone adheres to the law, the more they are hated. So while frustrating, he complies nonetheless. Morphonia skips away. Up in the palace, Rita just gets off a call with Himino. And whatever Himino has relayed to Rita forces her to scream once again. Next day, the kings arrive in Gakuen for Jira's trial. Rita enters the courtroom and the proceedings begin with her announcing Jira's sentence. Jira protests that he hasn't even expressed his side yet. But Rita declares Jira not guilty. A shocked Racules asks her to repeat what she just said and asks for the justification for her decision. Rita first explains that Jira being able to break through the biometrics of Ogre Caliba indicated the possibility that he could be of royal blood. Rita also looked into the existence of Rainbow Jururaira. And the only place she was able to find any reference to it was in reading that it was served at Shugadam's Caucasus Kabuto Castle about 10 years ago. Turns out Racules and Jira are brothers. Both are Hastings, and Rita was able to confirm it through DNA tests conducted by Himino using Racules' blood and Jira's hair. Therefore, according to the law, Jira did not steal any weapons or perform any seditious acts. He merely used his right as a member of the royal family to do what needed to be done. Racules asserts that Jira committed the act of invasion. But Rita's further interviews with the people of the kingdoms revealed overwhelming support and gratitude for Jira and his kindness. Racules laughs and reminds Rita that releasing Jira would make him an enemy of Gakuen. Rita maintains that no one is above the law and that it is the shield that protects the peoples. Rita declares that she will never waver as Gakuen is steadfast. Rita reiterates that she has found Jira not guilty. Kaguraji smiles as Racules and his men storm out of the courtroom. Jira thanks Rita, who says she was only doing her job. Just then, Jigakujim and Sanajims arrive in Gakuen. The 5 ogres go to meet them at the gates of the castle. Rita says the 5 Kingdom alliance was forged so they could work together to defeat their enemies. And this is one such time for the alliance to spring to action. Rita hands Jira his sword back and he steps forward. But Rita kicks him to the ground. The 4 kings take the lead as they henshin with Jira having to catch up in the back. The 5 ogres summon their gods to form Legend King-Ohger and battle the embiggened Jigakujim. Each ogre tries to take the lead with their signature attacks. But it is when their powers are used together that they can defeat Jigakujim for good. The 5 ogres go their separate ways for today. Rita, however, heads inside to find holes having been dug throughout the castle. Morphonia explains that the Bugnarak have stolen something and Rita realizes that the treasure truly was in her country. Jira sets foot in Shugadam for the first time in days and is immediately welcomed by his friends Kogain and Boon. He is relieved that they are safe. But their reunion is interrupted when the Shugadamians excitedly grab Jira and toss him in the air, celebrating the return of their prince. Jira asks the peoples to put him down as he is here to defeat Racules. Kogain yells at him to stop, saying it would only complicate things. Just then, Desnarak and Kamajim broadcast to the entire Chikyu to announce that they have taken the planet hostage. The Bugnarak have completed tunnels connecting the 5 kingdoms and will use them for cocoons that will facilitate their invasion. Shugadam's cocoon bursts through to the surface, while the other 4 kingdoms' cocoons are hidden somewhere underground. When the time comes, the cocoons will burst open, leading to an infestation. If the kingdoms try to force them open, there will be a big explosion. However, there is one way to potentially prevent the destruction. If they hand over Jira hasty, they will maybe withdraw the cocoons. Kogain and Boon try to stop Jira from heading into trouble. But Yenma appears and asks him to come with. As they walk to the castle, Yenma says the Bugnarak are after Jira's power to control the Shu gods. Yenma asks how Jira is able to do that and he answers that he's simply asking his friends for help. Yenma says that is impossible. But anyway, if they hand Jira over to the Bugnarak, they will lose control of King-Ohger and the 3 spirits. Yenma asks which side is he on. Jira says he would never side with Bugnarak. But when Yenma suggests Jira would choose his brother, Jira says this has nothing to do with his past. Yenma reminds Jira that he'll come for him if he steps out of line. The 5 kings are now assembled at the castle. Jira charges straight toward Racules, but Kaguraji and Rita block Jira's sword. Jira takes offense to being called a prince and does not want to be lumped in with the likes of Racules. King Racules says Jira was kidnapped at a very young age. They searched all over, but were unable to find any trace of him in Chikyu. So, to avoid public humiliation, the family hid his entire existence. But Racules wants to celebrate Jira's miraculous return and lends his hand out for them to work together against the Bugnarak and to ensure the prosperity of Shugadam. Jira says he will never work with Racules when he sacrifices children. Jira breaks through once again, but Daga grabs and pins him to the ground. Racules says it's quite disappointing to hear, but they will move on to the alliance meeting after having Jira chained up. Himino says she's slightly concerned about the cocoons, but Kaguraji says they'll just have to take care of them when the time comes. Rita mentions that the Bugnarak also stole a treasure from Gokkan and believes that may put the world in danger. Racules says, based on his study of the legends, that treasure must be God Scorpion's shoe god soul. Rita suggests the Bugnarak want Jira in order to be able to control the spirits. However, handing over Jira would put the kingdoms in danger while allowing the cocoons to fester would result in a devastating loss. It's a lose-lose situation. Rita shows them a copy of the Five Kingdom Alliance and says the appropriate response would be teamwork. Himino says King-Ohger would be able to handle that aspect. But Racules asks everyone to instead follow his lead. Racules whips his sword out and slashes at the alliance document, thus rescinding the agreement. He declares Shugadam will have sole control of King-Ohger. If they want their countries protected, they must swear loyalty to him. In other words, give up their kingdoms. And in turn, he will share the power of the spirits. But Yenma points out that Racules does not have the power to move King-Ohger. Just then, Embiggen Sanajims spring out of the underground tunnels and begin to rampage through Shugadam. But the ogres can't seem to activate their Calibas. Racules wonders if the shoe gods object. Yenma asks what Racules has done. But Racules reiterates that King-Ohger is under his control. Himino wants God Scorpion for herself before any more negotiations. But Racules wants a decision now. They give up their countries or... Suddenly, Jira calls for Kuwagon, who flies in, grabs Jira and the ogre Caliba and flies out of the castle. Jira proclaims he will not let them lay a finger on his god friends. Himino wonders to herself if Jira truly can communicate with the gods. Outside, Jira asks Kuwagon why they could not call on King-Ohger. Kuwagon says something about needing God Scorpion, Seisarin. Then they'll be okay. Just then, Kamajim appears, holding the God Scorpion soul in his hand. Kamajim says he might give it to him if Jira comes with. But Jira instead henshins and tries to take on Kamajim, who instead summons regular-sized Sanajims. The other ogres come out to help against the Sanajims. But the Embiggen Sanajims begin shooting at the cocoon in order to break it open. Kamajim laughs as he walks away. Jira tries to summon King-Ohger, but it does not come. He instead asks Kuwagon to accompany him and try to do what they can against the threat. Himino finds Kamajim and demands he hand over the soul stone. Kamajim trips her up, but Kaguraji is able to swoop in and swipe the soul himself. Kamajim laughs one more time before leaving. The Shugadamians gather in the town square, fearing their lives. But they are relieved when King Racules comes walking through. He tells them that he will protect his dear peoples and defeat the threat with the power of the spirits. Kaguraji tries to hand Racules the god Scorpion soul. But Jira runs and grabs it. The Shugadamians are excited to see Prince Jira will also fight alongside their king. But Jira yells at his brother, laughing at the absurdity of Racules' insincere words. The crowd gasps as Jira points his sword at his brother. Racules declares Jira a threat to the country. Jira smirks and says if left to someone like Racules, the country will fall. So before that can happen, he will take Shugadam himself. The Shugadamians think he's crazy. Kogain sighs. But Jira raises the god Scorpion soul, proclaiming that he will rule the world. As night falls over the land, God Scorpion bursts through the ground and engulfs Jira. He is able to activate God Scorpion armor and he henshins as they go on to battle the embiggened Sanajims. Himino looks on incredulously, saying that God Scorpion is hers. Racules elicits cheers from the crowd as he again assures that he will protect them. But much to the shock of the ogres, Racules summons King-Ohger Zero. King-Ohger Zero tosses the cocoon into the sky and blows it up, saving Shugadam. Jira notices that it is not Kuwagon with this formation. And suddenly, Seisarin stabs King-Ohger Zero in the chest, causing it to break apart. The Shugadamians cannot believe Jira is actually a traitor. But Racules, alone in front of his castle, says it is time. He activates his Caliba.